Cradled in a cloud of fable, Tibet, the land of snows, was a place unknown to the world beyond its mountain walls for nearly a millennium. Exotic tales abounded of this unearthly people on the vast plateau embraced by the Himalayan mountains. But it was not a land to be entered abruptly by outsiders. Inaccessible and remote, Tibet remained a mysterious figment in Western imagination. When the first expeditions of Westerners entered the Forbidden Land in the late 19th century, they brought back the first images the outside world had ever seen. They were images that provoked the fantastic tales even more. It seemed Westerners wanted to believe in the mythical Shangri-La, a temperate Asian land sheltered from the outside, governed by a philosophy of compassion and non-violence, free from hardship or strife. If similar in philosophy, the physical reality of Tibet was far more complex. Life on Earth's highest plateau was one of harsh contrast, a place where natural riches were matched by unimaginable rigors. Its first inhabitants were nomads who slowly adapted to high-altitude extremities. Even for these rugged people, at 15,000 feet, their eyes could literally dry up from the brittle intensity of the sun. A sudden hailstorm could destroy a season's work or scatter herds in seconds. Their early history was marked by fierce wars among tribes and outsiders. Life expectancy was brief. They were a people with an acute sense of life's impermanence and suffering. It is not hard to understand why the Tibetans, whose outward conditions were so severe and changeable, came to look inward for a sense of permanence and peace. The king who had finally united them as a people wished to unite them in faith as well. He invited a charismatic leader from India, Padmasambhava, to bring Buddhism to his land. Tibetans had believed in a host of deities, both benevolent and wrathful. Overcoming sabotage from the leaders of this religion, known as Bon, was the challenge. Padmasambhava succeeded by blending these beliefs with the teachings of the Dharma, or Buddhist scriptures. Instead of casting the deities out, he creatively recast them as guardians and symbols of the Buddha's teaching. The result was a unique Himalayan hybrid of Buddhism. The lavish rituals and imagery of their former faith remained on the exterior, but the teachings of Buddhism slowly claimed the minds of the Tibetans. They came to embrace the Buddhist view of life as a continual stream of death and reincarnation, a cycle in which human birth represents a precious opportunity to make the moral choices that will determine one's destiny in the next life. Reincarnation in a lower realm of existence, into another human life, or ultimately into nirvana, a state of freedom from the suffering of physical existence. The beliefs profoundly changed the Tibetan sense of morality. The social system and aristocracy of their past remained, but the new beliefs infused that system with a new benevolence. Nonviolence and compassion toward one another and outsiders was the new standard. And the degree to which Tibetans integrated these beliefs into their everyday lives grew to be the signature of their culture. Accumulating merit and purging past negative actions to ensure a good rebirth became part of daily ritual. Pilgrimages to sacred places came to include thousands of prostrations, a symbolic laying down of individual ego. Prayers were inscribed on flags and strung in long lines to flutter over homes and temples, their message of hope for the liberation of all earthly beings to be carried on the wind across the world. Reciting prayers was accompanied by the constant spinning of prayer wheels, a symbol of goodwill and loving kindness spinning outward toward all beings. Life, literally, revolved around their beliefs. As a community, they sponsored monasteries for the study and practice of Buddhist teachings. These vast structures were homes for tens of thousands of monks and nuns, publishing centers for all Tibetan society, and libraries for ancient texts. Unlike the more ascetic forms of Buddhism, the Tibetan version embraced the arts and sciences as tools toward understanding the infinite. Drama, music, art, astronomy, philosophy, and medicine were all taught at the monasteries. At the height of Tibetan civilization, the monasteries numbered over 6,000, with 1 in every 6 Tibetans becoming part of monastic life. Study began in the earliest years. Earning the equivalent of a doctoral degree could demand 20 years or more. The monks became the keepers of knowledge for all Tibetan society, and the thread linking all generations was a tradition of discipleship. One elder teacher or lama passing the teachings on to monks who, in turn, themselves became lamas. The new Buddhist beliefs also produced the most fascinating of Tibetans, the yogis. Unlike the Hindu yogi, performing contortions for the public, the achievements of the Tibetan yogi were achievements of the mind, unseen by others. The Tibetan yogi was a monk or layperson who, having studied the teachings of the Buddha as a scholar, wanted to actually experience their promise within his own mind, a state of existence called enlightenment. For the aspiring yogi, attaining enlightenment meant gaining an earthly preview of the bliss of nirvana. Through intensive mental and physical exercises in remote caves or huts, their goal was to rise above the suffering of samsara, or physical life, and discover the purest nature of consciousness. In their quest, meditation retreats could last for years. For centuries, Tibetans revered these yogis as the most mystical people in their society. They supported their pursuit of enlightenment by providing the monasteries with food, clothing, and currency. The yogis inspired Tibetans with the hope that freedom from the suffering of physical life might indeed be attainable. Over the course of centuries, spiritual and state leadership converged. Tibetans began a tradition of identifying those among them believed to be reincarnations of the Buddha of compassion. Among them, one would be named Dalai Lama, literally ocean teacher, implying depth and breadth of wisdom. Eventually, the one identified as